Welcome to Renegade Thinkers Unite, featuring the sharpest minds in marketing, inspirational case histories, and weekly insights you can apply to your business. Find out why top CMOs rank this podcast among their favorites. Now, here's your host, Chief Marketing Renegade, Drew Nizer.
Hey, it's Drew, and I'm excited to be here in Valencia, California at the world headquarters of UTAK. Some might know it as UTAK Laboratories. My guest is Matt Kopp, the Chief Marketing Officer. I'm excited about this episode because I've been talking to Matt over the phone. We never met in person until today for about 19 months. So, Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Drew. Great to be here.
It's exciting to be. So I had the pleasure of having a tour of UTAK today and see how you manufacture all these controls. Can you at least help folks understand who are not scientists and are not in the drug lab business? What does UTAK do?
Oh, so good old-fashioned elevator speech.
Yeah.
So UTAK is a quality control manufacturer, and what that means is we take human biological matrices like blood, urine, serum, oral fluid, and we take certain drugs and we actually put those drugs into the matrix at known concentrations. And what that does is it mimics a patient sample. And so laboratories use that material called quality control material to make sure their instruments are calibrated properly so they can go ahead and issue patient results, or maybe they need to help somebody in the forensic world, so they want to go ahead and issue results to a DA or maybe somebody else in the forensic field.
So if you're a CSI fan,
yeah, there you go.
right, and we have a victim, and we want to find out what drugs that victim may have been on.
That's right.
Or someone who actually perpetrated a crime. They would draw some blood, right, and then they would send that to a lab, and then the lab would check to make sure. So let's say they find they're on OxyContin. How does your product? So your product helps that lab do what exactly in very layman's terms? So make sure that OxyContin is properly diagnosed as OxyContin?
Yeah, so identified. What they want to do is drug detection. So their biggest thing is making sure that the drug is detected accurately, because they can get false positives, false negatives, and they have to make sure that their process is working right. So we're just the checkpoint in the whole process of the testing.
So you are literally in the quality control business. You
Absolutely.
make sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So you work with a number of laboratories, or your customers. You would probably all have seen Quest Diagnosis on the street corners and the little boxes that say Quest Diagnostics, so people will know what those labs are. Talk a little bit about, 19 months ago, I was actually looking at an email that I got from Gina. You were in a certain place where you decided that you wanted to sort of step your marketing up. Talk about, if you can remember back where you were, because you decided to say, all right, marketing is going to be a more important part of our business. Talk about where the company was at that point.
Our company 19 months ago was really focused on just getting our operations, so infrastructure. And the one thing we want to do as an organization is grow. And we understand that marketing is a key element to growth. There's the sales cycle, there's the service cycle, and marketing, it really all starts with that. And to really get the marketing up and going, we know we had to have a good partner, someone we can work with to really help us focus and really think about the storytelling and the strategy behind marketing, not just printing up some shirts or sending out an email or any of those things, but on a higher level, hey, how do you execute a strategy? How do you put one down, execute a plan?
So you decide to, you say, we need some outside help.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you reached out to an agency.
You might be familiar with them.
I don't know. Yeah,
I think they're called Renegade.
Renegade.
Yeah.
Okay, so you reached out to this agency called Renegade, and talk a little bit about the process that I'm going to use them as a third person that we walked you through.
Well, so the whole process for us was, evaluating people. I think it's always good and important. It's like you have to evaluate multiple resources and potential partners, because you have to find one that works for you. It's a relationship. It's not just, hey, hire them and do a job. Everybody works together differently. There's a chemistry and a dynamic that occurs. So, after meeting with you and being introduced to some of your team, for us, it was a very easy decision on who we really felt would really pull us out of our own shell, get us in uncomfortable situations to really grow. Those are the uncomfortable situations that any company or any individual will grow from.
I love it. So that, I would use the word courage. right? That you had the courage to say, okay, we can't do this in-house. You had the courage to say, we need to be something different in the marketplace. And what I loved about when we started the research with you all is it was already there. You guys were already using some language called control freaks.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so cool and so different. And talk a little bit about how that came about.
So control freaks is actually something that's been around for a long time, and it goes back to even when I first started with the company 11 years ago. And we've always kind of used it as a small little note or like a mantra as far as our tribe, but never a main focus to the marketing piece. So it's been something that people really connect with, whether they're in the clinical world, which is there's not a lot of personality in the clinical world. Everybody's pretty buttoned up compared to the forensic world where everybody wants to actually cut loose a lot more. So control freaks identifies with both groups perfectly.
And what I loved is, and this is what's interesting about another reason to bring in an outside partner is, it was already there, but it was down here.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we said was, wow, you've got something that a lot of small businesses don't have. You have equity in an idea that is an infinite storytelling machine.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of cool that was already there. So then what? So you sort of, now we've said control freaks. Talk a little bit about what control freaks meant. And I feel like we helped you understand a little bit and broaden that idea. Because the word control freak, we all know that. It's, it's control, but why is that such an interesting idea for your business?
Well, for our business and obviously doing quality control and playing off that, our company and our people really want to take ownership of their processes and are control freaks about it. And every customer that sees that tagline or reads it on a shirt or sees it on our website where we say we're a different type of control freak, right? Because control freak means I'm the control freak. I'm the one that I got to do everything myself, versus how we're doing it with the story with your help, Renegade's help, is taking that story and saying, hey, we're a different type of control freak. And we actually want to give control and give a gift of control. So the changing of the mindset from maybe control freaks being a negative connotation to more of a positive outlook was really the different mindset that came throughout the whole discussion.
And what was interesting to me as I walked around this is I saw the sort of, by the way, we've changed, we call this purpose-driven story statements. And control freak to me is a really efficient purpose-driven story statement because there's so many ways you could go with it, but it speaks to your internal mission to be, freakishly committed to helping these companies that have controls take control, right?
Yeah,
and do all that. And what I saw as I was walking around is I felt like I was watching the culture and action of control freak, because you were working on how you could make your company, your processes more efficient, how you could make your, integrate more effectively with your customers. All of that to me is the internal embodiment of control freaks.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so talk a little bit about that when you decided to make control freaks, not from down here as a thing, but front and center. What kinds of things did you do from an employee standpoint to get people sort of, because they already were familiar with it, but they now needed to think about it a little bit differently?
Well, I think it has to start with the culture, right? The company culture, really owning that part. And it's not just control freaks being for our audience and just a nice tagline. It's really embodying the control freak. So taking ownership of everything that we do on the daily, no matter what task it is, if it's a manufacturing where it's extremely complex and dealing with drugs and all the mathematics and chemistry, or processing order through our ERP system, or just shipping a box out, is being focused and really being a control freak about that process. Double checking work, looking at stuff, making sure it goes out perfect.
So that's really, it sort of builds in a culture of sort of, we'll call it efficacy, we'll call it quality control, we'll call it freakish control.
Yeah, freakish
right?
control.
So I noticed on your LinkedIn profile, you have yourself listed as Chief Control Freak.
That's right.
Yeah. So now that's that's a pretty cool thing, and that's a pretty high bar for one's job.
Absolutely. I think you have to take pride in anything you do. And if you're going to be one of the people that are out there talking to customers, you're the one that's front and center in some capacity, that you have to have the ownership. And for me, I'm very happy and blessed to be able to go out there and be that person and share our company culture and then live it out there with our customers and helping them get in control to the freakish way we know that they can get to. So why not be that person up in front?
Very cool. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about. All right, so we have the purpose-driven story statement. What do you do next? So stay with us.
You've been listening to another great interview on Renegade Thinkers Unite with Drew Nizer. But the value doesn't end there. As a listener, you can download a free ebook from Drew, Renegade Thinkers, interviews with 11 trailblazing CMOs any business can learn from. Top marketing thought leaders and proven executives from Time Warner, American Express, and Chico's, and others. Get your free copy at renegadethinkersunite.com/ebook. For listeners only at renegadethinkersunite.com/ebook.
Okay, we're back, and my guest is Matt Kopp. We're at the world headquarters of UTAK Laboratories in Valencia, California, which is also the home of Sunkist, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
A lot of things.
Right. Well, actually, is it Santa Clarita or is it Valencia, or is there a difference?
It's not really a difference. Valencia is a town inside of Santa Clarita. Santa Clarita is kind of like the bigger city, but it's a suburb outside of Los Angeles.
Right. So if you're unfamiliar with Los Angeles, you just get on Route 5 and just keep heading north until you get to Magic Mountain, and there you are.
That's our staple.
That's it. Magic Mountain and UTAK, the two things that I now know about this area. Okay. So we were talking about you personally taking on the role of chief control freak and really bringing that inside the organization. Let's talk about now, how did you sort of, from a marketing standpoint, you had some basics to sort of take care of.
Yeah.
And let's just talk about some of those things, whether it's a website or search or something. What were some of the steps that you did after you decided, okay, we're gonna be this organization known as Control Freaks? Now what?
So for us, it was the digital space. We understand that area is something that everybody utilizes, and we were doing Control Freaks through some literature at trade shows. We weren't blasting it out to the large group out there that's using either social media, using SEO, and all these things. So we did not use it in that capacity. So for us, working with Gina Boersma, who's my right hand here at UTAK when it comes to marketing, does our advertisement and promotions, really focus on how we can take Control Freaks, put it on the digital space, and really having people find us through different types of language.
Well, so Gina's in the room here, so we can give her a shout out.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, Gina. Hey. So, which is kind of fun for us because we're also here on video. I think I can't really be sure because I think we're on video. But anyway, so. All right, so digital. Let's be specific. What kinds of things were you doing? I mean, what?
Well, we did nothing before, right? So
right.
we had a little bit of space on the digital ad campaign, so banner ads, so things of that nature. But to really actually make it more prevalent, where if someone would search for our stuff, then we would see it. Hey, they're on their searches. So it's something that's constantly reiterated to them. It's constantly a reminder, hey, right. UTAK's right there. Those types of things, along with the SEO, where there's just simple searches where they would be looking for us to really get our name on top. It's not something we really heavily focused on for a long period of time.
And I think that's interesting. I think for a lot of small business in particular, SEO is one of those overlooked opportunities. Yeah. Talk a little bit about diving in on that. What was the process for SEO and improving, your performance in that area?
So for us, it was really about making sure that our site was up there. I mean, we do have competitors, and they were putting money into their own SEO. And for us, it was really, how do we differentiate ourselves on this platform through searches? Mm-hmm. Like, how can we make sure that our prime products or our value proposition stand out most? So we really had to focus on the language that had to be used and what type of keywords would have to be implemented to make sure we would be successful.
And so there was an audit where they went through literally every page and checked. And then once you've identified these keywords, what do you actually have to do to get your SEO to perform better?
Well, it really goes down to organizing it. We had to organize it. We had multiple audits on our website to find out where we had to improve, figure out what language was best to use, and really focus on the organization of everything that we were saying and using on our email, through technical documentation, any language that we use, we had to key in and say, we have to use similar language across the board. So we would boost it.
Right. And do you think sort of this is probably, a lot of that work was almost a year ago, I suspect.
Yeah.
Right. Have you seen a sort of, can you see an appreciable improvement in sort of search performance?
We definitely have seen a huge uptick in different types of traffic. Some traffic is valuable and some traffic was not, because we play in use words like control freaks and things. You're going to get a lot of traffic, and getting some of this traffic cleared up to say it's relevant, or it can be turned into an ROI versus something that's just some random person reaching out to us asking, what does control freaks really mean? Right. Well, we would get all the time. Right. We still get it with someone through our chat on our website. Someone might just ask about it. So for us, we've seen a huge increase just by focusing on what we were doing tactically on the digital marketing space.
Yeah, and we can move on from that. We went through that process too and discovered all sorts of things like error 404s and bad links and just all sorts of sort of detritus that slows you down.
Too.
Right, and so you have to clear all of that out. You have to make sure that some of your links are, your whole structure of your site and your links are performing properly, so that you can get your six-pack as right?
No, absolutely. I think that's one thing, building a website and not having it audited, which was just from a process, like we wanted a new website, so we just did it.
Right.
We didn't think of how it should be structured.
Right.
We just wanted to make it look good.
Right.
We wanted to try to make it usable. We didn't think about all the other things that, having it audited, making sure it was useful, 404 pages. We found after the fact, even 6 months later, that we still had some of our old websites still up.
Oh, gosh.
And so we had to make sure we backtracked and covered that.
Right.
And we wouldn't have gotten there if we didn't have, a good recommendation from Renegade and being able to go back and do that research and say this was valuable to us.
And so, our thinking was on that is that's the low-hanging fruit, in the sense that if there are people out there searching for the products that you're making and they're not finding you, that's just lost opportunity. And that's sort of the ground level. And what our hope was that if those things improved, that would be some low-hanging fruit that would result in some increased business. And 2018 ended up being a good year for you guys.
Yeah, we were up 11%, our best year in our company history. So, I mean, we had a hard time. We still have a hard time at the day, afterwards, closing the gap on exactly what that ROI is. But there's no doubt there's a correlation between the two.
Right, and that's something that we talked a little bit about, and by that I meant 2018. And so next step for you is to increase your marketing automation tools, so that that would be an area of opportunity to track this stuff.
Yeah, for us, the next step for us and what we're currently doing today is implementing tools that really, the CRM.
Right.
Having a CRM tool is crucial to really tracking any type of activity. The sales function, we're getting a lot of leads. How do we know if we're tracking them?
Right.
Getting the proper tools is the next step. And so what we're doing right now is implementing Salesforce that has a Pardot tool, and really being able to run our campaigns through that, being very strategic with what the campaigns are doing, how they're being ran, and the tracking. I mean, the tracking, closing, put in ROI so we can better put our money in better spots. We don't know right now what's 100% working. If we can get 75, 80, it's going to be a lot better than 20.
Yeah, guesswork. I mean, you know that your site traffic went up, your calls went up, your sales went up, but directly saying, oh, this SEM, this paid ad on Google resulted, it's a little harder. You can get there. And this is the building blocks that you're describing. Many of the listeners are familiar with. If they don't use Pardot, they use Marketo or Eloqua or something. But they're familiar with this progression. And some of them are saying, okay, those are 2. You're going to need about 27 more. But one of the key things that they'll talk about is, if you get the tools, make sure you allocate the staff on top of that, which is an important part of it. And one of the things in marketing automation people seem to underestimate is that the time. Okay, so we've got these tools. One of the things that I love that you do is your trade show experience. Versus everybody else in these. I mean, we're talking about a very dry. You're at laboratory type. Your customers are labs. And you have all this big signage that says control freaks all over this. Talk a little bit about what happens at the shows and how you interact with them, and the conversations that
take place.
Yeah.
So I think at a show you'll find, especially as you're saying, Drew, it's a clinical world. There's a lot of stodginess or that buttoned up, white feel you get in that area. And so you have to make yourself stand out, especially as a small company that's always fighting for position. So, having control freaks in bright green or bright blue, which are our booth colors and our brand colors, pops out at those shows because everybody's got similar colors or very simple, nothing super aggressive. So we put a control freaks welcome on our booth, and people will walk by and stop. Right. And that's what you want them to do. You want them to stop and look. And they'll sit there and they'll wait, and they'll either wait for traffic to clear up, or they'll just stop and look and read and trying to figure out, hey, what does this company do?
What's going on?
How do they? I don't understand why they're here. And then it gives you an opportunity to welcome them and say, how are you doing this today? So it's having a conversation.
It's an icebreaker.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And
for us, we find it's very much an icebreaker.
Right. And in the end of the day, even though you're selling essentially chemicals in liquid form and they're complicated science that goes into it, it's still people doing business with people.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, I think there's always face-to-face is one of the most powerful things in the world, right? And that's being lost with the next generation. But at a trade show, when you get to see somebody and you can connect with them and have a conversation, there's nothing better than that.
Yeah, it's amazing to me, and I feel that you're right, and I've seen this and had this conversation with a number of other CMOs where because so much of the world is digital and we're on our phones all the time and so forth, that when you finally get to talk to a person, it's really an amazing impact. So I think that's a great place to take a break, and then when we come back, maybe we'll talk a little bit about sort of where you're going and some of the things, challenges you'd like to solve. Did you know that Renegade Thinkers Unite was ranked number 2 of the top 10 podcasts for CMOs by Crackerjack Marketing? Wow, we're really honored. Now, we couldn't do that without amazing guests, and we've had some amazing CMOs on this show, and also terrific listeners like you all. If you like what we do here, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player. That way, you'll never miss an episode. Also, as a special thanks, I'd like to send you a free ebook on Renegade Thinkers. Now for that, just email drew@renegade.com. Now let's get back to the show. Okay, we're back again with Matt Kopp, CMO or Chief Control Freak of UTAK. And we've been talking about sort of the progression of the marketing from covering the basis with getting your strategy, getting your purpose-driven story statement, internal alignment that happened as a result of this. And then I think, we really haven't talked about customer engagement and what you've done in that area and how you've used control freaks for that. Is any stories to share in that part as you've done that, or is that still on the docket to be done?
Well, I think it's on the docket to be done. We've done it in small cases. It's not consistent across all platforms, and that's what we're really striving to be, right? I think of any marketing, consistency is one of the biggest elements that you have to have, even as a company. Even the experience a customer has to have has to be consistent. So in some cases, talking to a customer about control freaks and what it means to them, whether it's, oh, my wife's a control freak, I gotta have that, or everybody in my lab calls me a control freak, so it identifies them with that. So it's more of like almost like a bean or a culture for them. So not one particular story sticks out.
Well, one of the things we were talking about earlier was how you've been talking to your customers and spending time at your customers and thinking about how they actually use the product. And that, to me, is a really interesting area because that could inspire future product development or changes and things like that.
Yeah, for us as a small manufacturer and really differentiate ourselves with personalized custom manufacturing, trying to tailor products that are specific to their workflow. And as a manufacturer, we talk about continuous improvement, non-value activity. And so we try to mirror that with our customers' process. They're doing the same thing. They have a process they follow. There's things that they're doing in their process that we can help reduce. So taking out steps of their workflow, reducing variability in their jobs to save them time, to reduce any variability that they may have on their team. they may have multiple people touching something. So if we can remove touches on their end,
Right.
they're not going to have the same
Right.
concerns that, hey, this control is not working right. What happened? Well, we had 10 people touch it. So how do we know? So if we can reduce those amount of touches, it drastically decreases the amount of variability that occurs.
And the mere pursuit of that is an exercise of control freakishness. Now, one of the things, as you were talking, I was thinking about what it means to be a small business competing against really large companies.
Yeah.
And what I was hearing is, as a small, nimble organization, where you're excelling is in this level of customization.
Yeah.
And I thought that's really interesting because customization has its own challenges. I mean, you have lots and lots of products of inventory, but you'll do things like small batches, which I thought it's really instructive for small businesses because you're competing against big companies, but
Yeah.
you're providing a very specialized service that the large companies can't do.
But it's not even that they can't do, they won't do.
Right.
It's not something that they're not even focused on. Larger companies, they want to focus on serving the masses.
Mm-hmm.
As we, being a small company, especially family ran and operated, our customers are everything. So they sign our checks. It's the way we view it. So we really want to tailor everything we can to their operations and their process. So, if it's kind of like the conversation is, can you do that? Yes. Can you do that? Yes. We're always saying yes a lot more than we say no.
Right. And that's, again, an advantage of a small company. That's what the expectation is. But your customers are big companies. You're not working with just small labs. You've got some of the biggest labs in the world working with you.
Yeah, we have a wide variety of different labs use UTAK at a lot of different capacities, as I said, clinically or forensically. And so you do have the big laboratory corporations in America, Quest Diagnostics, Sonic Healthcares that are global companies use us at some capacity because every lab they have has a different unique skill set or different type of volume. And if you can deliver something that's special to them and unique to their process and their type of testing, you're going to create value for them.
Right. And what I like about sort of this is I'm hearing you talk is there's a real alignment. There's this promise of control freaks. There's the commitment to developing controls that are customized in a small batch and so forth. There's this commitment to sort of solving their problem in this world of controls. It all ties together kind of nicely. And this is when marketing and an idea can be bigger than a tagline. It can sort of embrace the whole organization, from product development to R&D to customer service to sales and support. It really can pull the organization together.
Yeah, Jerry, if you have a customer come to you and say, you guys really are control freaks, you did your job. And we've had people come to us and say, you really are control freaks.
Oh,
Matt.
that must make you feel so good.
And for me, and you can share that with the rest of the team, and hopefully it's in an email versus verbally, so you can pass it on to the rest of the team, because our whole team does it. It's not one person. The team atmosphere really makes the impact because it takes a lot of people to make the control work and think differently and make sure that the customer's happy at the end of the day. But when they come to you and sit there and say, you guys are control freaks, it feels good.
It does. Yeah. And I one of the big challenges that we lay out for B2B CMOs is tell your story in 6 words or less. You've got it down to 2.
Yeah.
Right? You're control freaks. And it's like, what? What's that? Right? It's a conversation starter. There's just a lot going on. And it's just so it's fun. It's really, to me, an interesting idea, which we cannot take credit for other than identifying and just simply saying, raise that one up there.
Yeah.
Because that's a really special thing that you own and have the right to own.
Yeah, I think it's bringing it to the beyond the surface level,
right,
and taking it to the top of the mountain, saying this is where your focus needs to be. This is what's different about you versus everybody else.
Right. Very cool. Okay. So as you start to think about rolling this out, what's on the to-do list and in terms of things that you would share that would also be instructive? What sort of, you've got your strategy, you've got your event program going, you've got your SEO and SEM. What's next?
I think the next thing for the control freaks in UTAK is really scaling. is reaching large groups and going more global. In the U.S., it's a ton of our businesses here, and we do have an international footprint, is really taking everything done and finding new avenues to market outside of the U.S. So looking for different opportunities through digital versus print, trade shows, and reaching further outside the U.S. market.
Got it. Okay, so you have worldwide ambitions.
Absolutely.
Yes. So right here from the headquarters in Santa Clarita / Valencia, California, we are going to conquer the world with Control Freaks. Cool. As we wrap up this episode, what would you say, again, thinking in terms of other marketers, particularly small business, what have been some of the biggest lessons learned from this experience over the last couple of years?
I think for us, and I'll speak for Gina, is that being consistent and staying true to your plan is the biggest thing. There's been times where we started to drift away from what the plan was, and staying true to it and really resisting the urge to shift was the biggest thing I've learned. And we still try to hone ours in. So that would be the biggest lesson I've learned, is don't drift, stay true, see it through. It's going to take a long time, and you have to follow it through. If you don't and you shift to something else, you never know what you're going to miss.
I love that that's the lesson, and because there's so many studies that show that frequency of message, repetitive over time, and some suggest that you need to 24 times before an idea sinks in. And most marketers get bored with their idea long before their target does. And so you see this, and God, I was thinking about one company that seemed like it had a new campaign every 6 months, and I'm just thinking, how do the employees get behind that? What are we, and so I think that if you can be consistent, and by the way, here's really important. This is why doing the foundational work to get your strategy right. The reason brands are inconsistent is they're not really locked in or committed. It's not a brand truth. Yeah. It's sort of it's a peripheral idea, and they go, it's dismissible. And so when you are lucky enough to get to an idea that you not only own, but you feel good about, and inspires employees and connects with customers, you got to ride that baby.
As long as you can.
As long as you can. And in my belief, you could keep, with Control Freaks, there's an infinite amount of opportunity. I don't think this one gets tired. I think there's new ways to bring it to life. But think about all what that means, and I know that there's a number of thoughts. So all right, I think this has been a really helpful, amazing conversation. I appreciate it. The big lesson here is, we talked about this, big lessons. 1, find a strategy, commit to it. 2, articulate it in 6 words or less. 3, get your basics covered. Make sure your website, your employees, your customers understand what the idea is. And then 4th, stay with it.
Yeah.
And so with that, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for coming out, Drew.
Hey, it's my pleasure. And I want to really take a moment. I got an email from a listener from, I think it was in Detroit, Michigan today. And it was really cool. I want to thank him for that. It's dnizer@renegade.com. You can also text me, 917-679-8852. Send me notes. He wanted to know, I had mentioned an ebook. Feel free to do that. Suggest some topics that you want to cover, or some companies you think that are doing interesting work. Or, big opportunity here, go to a platform and just, rate the show. That would be so cool. Just rate it on iTunes or Google or wherever you listen. So that's enough selling. Thank you as always for listening. And until next week, keep those Renegade thinking caps on and strong.
This has been Renegade Thinkers Unite, but it doesn't end there. Just go to renegadethinkersunite.com for more and subscribe to the show. That way, you'll never miss an episode. We'll talk with you next time on Renegade Thinkers Unite.